I'm David Knight, and I'm General Counsel of Stevens, and also represent Warren Stevens and the Stevens family in a variety of different enterprises and activities, including this one. And as I'm sure you all know, Stevens owns the Capitol Hotel. And I'm also here representing the Peabody Hotel at the request of the owners of that facility. And what this really reminds me of is that scene from the Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, where the bad pirates strike a deal with the good pirates based on the pirates' code. And then once they get them on board, they say, well, you know, that pirates' code, those are really more in the nature of guidelines. And what we're talking about here when we're dealing with this specific project is the code is the set of river market ordinances. And those aren't guidelines. Those are laws. And they were established a number of years ago as a comprehensive, well thought out means of regulating development in this area and protecting the integrity of the neighborhood. And this project is so far out of compliance with that code that as a single project, it requires 43 variances under 11 separate provisions of the code. Not just height, but setback, landscaping, virtually every sign on the building is out of compliance. And we objected on that ground, and when it went through the Design and Review Committee, it went through on a single vote, where that committee just threw all those protections out the window. You know, I certainly realize it's not your issue, but I do believe it is a fair comment. You probably saw in the newspaper the DoubleTree just completed about a $12 million renovation down on Market. And when you add the money that the DoubleTree spent, plus the Stevens family on the Capitol Hotel, plus the renovation of Peabody a number of years ago, those three operators have invested about $70 million in renovating those facilities, which has really been a huge positive to the city. So from our perspective, letting the developers that have done that have some time to recoup their investment is something that you could certainly consider as citizens.
What's being said today is unseemly, if not worse, and that we hope that you and others in the city of Little Rock will say loud and clear that free enterprise is alive and well in Little Rock and in Arkansas.
We are invited guests, and we have a right to make these comments in this public forum. And you may think they're unseemly, and you may think we're being full of doom and gloom. I wish Warren were here to hear that after his massive investment at the other end of the claim. It is not unseemly. Comments are not unseemly. Our role here as invited guests, fulfilling our rights as citizens to make comments on these things, that's an inapt description. Thank you. And I think should we all leave? Is that?
May I respond? You have a chance to respond.
Well, sir, no, sir. You've had your time for comments.
Well,
sir, I need to.
You spoke one extra time.
Sir,
that would be fair.
No, sir. I'm not interested in being fair. I'm interested in moving this meeting along and having our discussion of this board. Is the general feeling of this board that we can continue this discussion with these groups, or would y'all like to have, you want to have them? I'd ask for all of the parties with the for and against to please.
I was going to say you need to be careful about this.
No,
I'm saying FOI and public meeting, you got to be.
Yes, okay.
the original objection that we had with it was that it violates the 48-foot limit. It's a legitimate argument, and I do have a closed mind sometimes. I'll try to open it up for you a little bit about what I think about this. It's a legitimate argument to say, what do you want the district to be? It's legitimate for developers to come down and want to act in the short run to do their project. But we represent, the board represents the taxpayers. And we have to take a long look at this. And the fact is, the River Market District is one of the few things in downtown Little Rock that works. It started out to be a small scale, to repeat, a small scale commercial district. It has worked well for this area. It continues to work well for it, and I think you tamper with it at your peril, particularly when there are other places where tall buildings can go. So I think it does have an impact on the district, and it can have an adverse impact. But nobody wants that. I don't think Red or Jimmy or anybody else wants to see that happen. My first concern is its impact on the public library and the property we own down here. And you can look at the elevations and make your own judgment. It clearly dwarfs those buildings. And that's a fact. And I think Jimmy and Rhett did the best they could with it, but you can't take any more rooms out of it to get it down near the 48-foot mark. That's just a fact. And so as long as it's at that, the only thing I can do is object to it, because I think that's a bad thing. The second thing, the bigger concern, really is the process. And I would agree, rules are rules. They're written for a certain reason. There are times when you need to change them, but you don't need to do it every time.